We started attending here in 1978 prior to the birth of our first child, and we looked around at a variety of churches, and we were very comfortable with the theology, the welcoming aspect of this church, and quite frankly, these folks have been with us in our tough times, and we've tried to be with them in their tough times, and it's been a great relationship. It's been a little over 40 years. Well, the principle of inclusion and non-discrimination are pretty much critical to my Christian theology, and I could never attend a church that practiced something different than that. And I think Asbury does a great job in that respect. I think if Christ were standing here today, he'd tell you that all are welcome at his table and all are welcome at his church, period. We don't discriminate on the basis of sex or race, and those are the critical tenets to my Christian belief. And that's really extremely proud to say that's what we do here at Asbury. I think our country is deeply divided right now along political and ideological guidelines, and I think that every church is the same. All churches are not the same, and people need to understand that. They need to understand what the theology is of the church before they join. I think that there are certain folks that are fundamental in their nature and certain folks that are liberal in their nature. And I think we're pretty clear and open as to what we believe. People need to know where every church stands on the critical issues. I think for years the mainline denominations of our churches have stayed away from the tough decisions, the tough policies, the tough issues. And I think that finally, with maybe out of all this divisiveness, it's forced people to take positions on those particular issues. That's maybe a good thing. But we at Asbury welcome, open to the LGBT community, and perhaps there's other churches that are not. So if you're a member of that community, we invite you and want you to come worship with us. We need you. We want to celebrate your joys, and we want to be there with you at your difficult times, and we ask you to be with us during our difficult times and celebrate with our joys. So if you're a member of that community, you can be very comfortable in knowing that we love you and we want you here. This particular community has come together on a common principle, and that is non-discrimination on the basis of race and sexual orientation, and we're all very comfortable in that. We think that's what God wants us to do, and this particular community, I think he's done, if you want to separate who's where, I think he's done a pretty good job of bringing folks of a common mind together. There's good things that come out of everything, and I think that God finds a way, and I think that he found a way here to say, okay, if you folks are going to be so divisive on these different issues, I'll love these people over here, and I'll love these people over here, depending upon, you want to be a fundamentalist, you want to be a liberal, I love you the same. And so I don't know why this particular church, these folks have come together. I think maybe that's a God thing.
Our Asbury members and friends have no doubt been hearing about things happening within the United Methodist Church. A general conference was held, which was the Global United Methodist Church. It was held in St. Louis. And the outcome of that gathering was not as we had hoped for. And what we learned at that gathering was that there is a great divide between churches in the United States and churches in places like Africa. There are some cultural differences that we underestimated, and that probably in the next 10 to 20 years will find a way of working themselves out. But for now, we are living in the midst of a church, a global church, where the cultural divide is deep. And so we ended up at that general conference voting for the church to become even more conservative on its acceptance of LGBTQ persons and LGBTQ clergy. And here at Asbury, a place that is reconciling, a place where we are proud to proclaim all means all, we found that very disheartening. So where does that leave us? I've had many church members call me, talk to me, email me, and ask me, what does this mean for us? Well, I first of all want to say Asbury is still going to be Asbury, a place where all are welcome. We are still a reconciling congregation, deeply committed to being a place where all are welcome. We also recognize that the next couple years will be a time of transition in the United Methodist Church. I'm not certain what that exactly means for now. In fact, there are different people who have different understandings of how that change might happen. But know this, change is happening. I've been fortunate to be in conversation with all the pastors of the largest churches here in Kansas City, and essentially they are in the same place we are, recognizing that our church can and must welcome LGBTQ persons, even if that means that we find ourselves at odds with the global church. So we continue the conversation, but we continue to do that in the context of not wavering from our commitment to welcome all. So if you are an LGBTQ person, if your son or daughter or grandson or granddaughter is LGBTQ, we want you to know that Asbury stands with you. And we don't just stand with you, we speak with you. And we are bold in proclaiming that our church will welcome all. And as the global church continues to sort things out, we don't need to sort things out because we know where we stand, we know who we are, and we know that as people called to proclaim the good news of God's love revealed to us in Jesus, we will be a place that continues to welcome all.